Good morning, everyone, and thank you for taking the time out of your days to participate in CMIC's virtual conference for CFMA. My name is Laurent Amar, and I'm the VP of Sales here at CMIC. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce our panel that will be joining us for the day, for the morning. On my team is Bill Gusto. He's our team leader for our solutions group. Some of our customers are very familiar with him as he's done a lot of the presentations to help them become clients. We also are very proud to have two very esteemed CFOs and VPs that are part of the CMIC ecosystem, Ken Buck from the DeMarco Group and Paul Essler from Knudsen. Today's agenda will be a very short introduction to who we are as a company and what is our value proposition to the industry. Then we're going to get into a life cycle process of what an integrated financial process looks like. What does that mean to you getting data from the field, and how does that get back into your accounting system, and how does all that information generate the analytics you need for proper reporting and to make better business decisions. After that, that'll be done by Bill Gusto. We'll get into two case studies from Ken with the DeMarco Group, been with CMIC for a few years now. We'll talk about his process and what the advantages of having a web-based or a cloud-based system has helped him during this lockdown. And then we'll go into, then we'll have Paul Essler from Knudsen talk about they literally went live during the lockdown, and we'll tell that amazing story of how the entire thing was done remotely with 100% implementation services provided by CMIC, all in a remote environment. So a great story there, two great stories of why companies and how CMIC has helped them throughout this process to be able to maintain their business continuity during these crazy times. Some of the people on this session today have seen our value proposition for many, many years. What's interesting about our value proposition is now more than ever before, it is unbelievably relevant. And during these crazy times that we're all living right now, companies are looking to optimize their productivity, minimize the risk, and really drive the growth. We're in an environment right now where things are getting a lot more competitive, and we need to be able to make better decisions faster and be able to have solutions come out of those decisions for our company to ensure our continuity. And all of that is really the huge way we're able to help our customers do that is because of having a single database platform. CMIC's product is made up of one database. It's not an amalgamation of different systems. The product we'll show you today is purely designed by us with 130 developers programming our solution. There is no outside products that we use to be able to give our customers a single database solution. It is very much done with our development, our support, our programming, and that's really a huge advantage we bring to the market in that some other companies or some other systems are using multiple products to be able to present a solution. Our platform or our methodology and our philosophy was always very much to design and develop software for our customers and for our prospects to be able to use one solution and maximize what they do in that one product. So the foundation for execution, all the icons you're seeing right now, of all the different modules we offer is, like I said before, fully developed by us. And not that a company needs to take on all these different products, but it does give them the ability to pick and choose which parts of CMIC they want to use. And what's nice about the way the development is done, over time, we've done this development of our different solution. But if you look at something like the opportunity management, some companies do like to track opportunities and see what their win-loss ratio is and determine what is the cost of sale to get that customer. And what's nice about that is they win these opportunities. It talks to the icon beside of resource planning. So it's great to win business, but I want to make sure that if I win all this work that I'm projecting, that I have the resources to be able to sustain it. And those resources are not just from a people perspective, but also from an equipment perspective. So the whole point of the way we design it is so that different parts of the system, as we've developed it, is so that companies can take on more and with less people or less overhead to accomplish those tasks. It all really comes down to, if you talk to our customers, and you'll soon have the opportunity to hear from a couple of them, there's many reasons why people select CMIC. One of the main ones is the single database platform. It's the moment, if I go back for just a moment to the previous slide, it's the moment I enter something through my mobile device in the field. I don't want to have to rekey in that data, whether I'm entering a timesheet, whether I'm creating an RFI, whether I'm capturing photos or issuing documents. I want that information to automatically reside back in the system. And that's one of the uniquenesses we bring to the market. The moment you enter a piece of data, if I'm just capturing time, and that time I want that to flow to job costs and onwards to payroll, I'm not rekeying that data. I have the ability to workflow that process from the moment I enter it, and that's the last time it's being touched. We take the obvious example of an accounts payable invoice. The moment that comes in the door, whether it's through regular mail or you get it through an email, I do not want to be able to have to print that, put it in a folder, take it down to 3 people for approval, back to accounting to process, and then to cut a check. We have the ability to workflow those types of documents that the moment you email it, if you get them by email or you scan those invoices, it will automatically take that data off that invoice, route it to the appropriate person for approval, back to accounting to issue payment, all without rekeying in data. And that's one process that, because we designed the entire product, because it's our own workflow, we are able to scale our solution to really adapt to the changing needs of the environment. What's going on today, people are really looking to mitigate and reduce the number of systems they're using simply because they need to be able to make better decisions. By having a single database platform, we really accomplish that task and giving our customers the ability to take on more work, to be more competitive, to scale. We have customers as small as $10 million using our solution and as much as $6-7 billion. And it's the same product. The difference is really just the deployment. Whether you take it in the cloud or you take it to a private cloud, the reality is it's the same system that those companies are using. It's just the deployment model which changes for them. So those are some of the things that we're talking about today. We have a new UI that we've introduced for the past few months, and that will be something that a lot of the customers that have just gone to it, that are on this session, will have the opportunity to take a look at, but they're already using it, but then to see some of the new things that we're doing with it. And really the whole point is to show you the value of, from a financial perspective, it's great to have great field reporting and great field information, but I need to be able to make those decisions and be able to get that data into my system. I'm going to transfer now over to Bill Augusta, who will go through the demonstration slide and give you some background to what he does and what his session will be all about.
Thank you, Laurent. So I'm Bill Augusta. I'm the team leader for the solutions group at CMiC. Our role within the company is to work with the account execs as part of the sales effort to leverage the opening remarks. Can you move me to the next slide, please? So to leverage the remarks from Laurent, we're going to focus today on a very common financial process. It's a month-end example, going from the operational folks doing their forecasting, somebody on the financial side getting the billing out to the clients, and then going through the month-end close by doing their WIP adjustments and closing the financial period. So in a non-integrated environment, this might represent a very common scenario where you have your field staff on site. They're doing their work on spreadsheets. You have, and especially in these days now, you have maybe the financial folks working at their home office or their home locations. They may need to access information. They may be doing things on the spreadsheet. The operational folks may need to transfer and get that information to the accounting folks. The accounting folks may need to connect to information in their corporate office where it happens to be a shared network drive or it happens to be their software. And sometimes they have no choice. They actually have to go into the office physically to complete a process. Okay. So having said that, we're going to ask for a polling question here. We'd like to find out how many of you are actually using spreadsheets right now to enter data. Sure. So the results of the poll, we got about 75% of the respondents said the answer is yes, they do use spreadsheets to perform some of the work that they need to do. 25% said no. So let's see how we can provide a solution that can maybe streamline some of that and make things a little bit easier for you, for all parties within your company to do that work. As Laurent said, CMiC runs in the cloud, separate, web-based solution, all in a single database. So as the field staff are doing their work in CMiC's field application, that information is updating the system, whether it's document related, whether it's financial related. The financial folks are tapping into exactly the same database. So they're seeing the information that somebody on the operations side has done, whether they may have posted a change order, whether there's another type of financial transaction, maybe a timesheet coming in from payroll. So now you've got one repository where you're being able to see all of that information. And that is going to take us through to how I'm going to illustrate that. And we're going to switch over to the software. I'm going to take control and share my screen. Okay. So what are you actually looking at here? We're looking at an example of a CMiC console. We've logged in based on my user credentials. This is what I need to do my job in the role of my company that I perform within my company. CMiC Analytics, as you can see an example here, we have dashboards that can provide key performance indicators to the individual. Whether I'm a financial person and I'm seeing general ledger information, accounts receivable information, accounts payable information. Again, everything is configured and tailored to my role within the company. The tabs across the top, the menu on the side, and the main part of the real estate that you see in the middle of your screen. So let's begin the process. I'm going to wear the hat of the project manager, and part of my role is to do my forecast for my job as part of the whole month-end routine. So I do have the ability to kind of scroll through and look at all of the information. I can see my current budget, which includes any posted change orders. I can see my current costs based on actuals that have hit my job and my percent complete. As a project manager, I can work and I can modify and update my percent complete, my cost to complete, or my cost at completion. Now, this may be a fairly large job, and I may want to break it down into smaller sections. So I do have the ability to filter and work on this in manageable chunks. So if I'm a general contractor and I'm subcontracting out most of the work, I may be able to forecast based on just purely the dollar numbers. If I'm a self-performer and the labor component is a significant aspect to my cost, I do have the ability to forecast based on productivity, okay? So as a project manager, one of the things that I may want to do is just take a quick look at the health of my project. I know what my contract value is between myself and my client. I know what my budget is. I know what my costs are. And we are expecting, or we estimated we were going to do roughly between 2.5% to 3% would be my profit margin. And it looks like we're still tracking pretty much as expected. Okay? I do have the ability to then go and take a look at my labor component and compare how we're doing compared to the budget. So, based on the units in place that we were supposed to put in, I can see that my estimate said that we were supposed to have a crew mix of about $90 per hour. They were supposed to be pouring about 10 linear feet per hour. And let's see how we're doing. Well, so far, we've put in about 189,000 linear feet. It's cost us about almost $19,000 in labor. And where are we today? Well, we're doing slightly better from a cost perspective on an average crew mix, and they're working pretty much on par. So if we continue down this, trend, I would expect that for the cast in place portion of my job, that I would be able to come in either on budget or slightly better than budget. Okay. One of the other things that I can do is I can say, well, you know what, we're doing the concrete pour during a certain time frame, and I can actually apply a curve to this job, and I can trend how I think I'm going to spend my cost budget over the life of the project. Okay. Once the project manager has reviewed all of the information, and they've completed their forecast for the month, the final step as an operational person would be to go ahead and store their forecast for the month. So they would go ahead and they would store their forecast. That's the handoff to the financial side. And from an operational perspective, we're done. I'm going to change hats now. I'm on the accounting side, and one of the things that we need to do is we need to get our invoices out to our clients. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and call up a particular job. One of the things you'll notice across the top of the screen is we have something that looks like a transit map. This is what we refer to as a train. And what is a train? It's a series of steps in a business process based on best practices. Most folks are used to following a menu to go from step A to step B. We've tried to make it even simpler by saying, okay, prepare your bill, generate the invoice, print the invoice, there may be an approval process, and then go ahead and post the invoice to generate your financial transactions. So whether the responsibility within your company is that the operational person, like the project manager, prepares the pencil copy, or it's something that's done by somebody on the financial side, both parties can review the information that we're looking at. If I wanted to go in and take a look at any new transactions that have been posted since the last time we did an invoice to this client, just by clicking on that button, I have the visibility to see all of that information here. I have a nice little audit trail that I can see the source ledger of where all those transactions are coming from. And not only can I see the internal cost side of the house, but I can see the potential revenue. So if we're doing a T&M job, there might be some bill rates or some markups between cost and revenue. Okay. We're also noticing some colors here. Well, what does that mean? Okay. There may be reasons that if we take a look at the yellow line, there may be some reasons that I don't want to bill any equipment charges this month, but those charges will be billed next month. So if I temporarily defer that particular charge and I post this invoice, that will automatically go into a billable state for the next invoicing cycle. If we take a look at the red line, you may be in dispute between your client and yourself on a material charge, and until that dispute is resolved, you're not going to include that transaction as part of the invoicing that you're doing. So you have full visibility and full control over reviewing the transactions that have come in since the last invoicing cycle, and then determining what you're going to include in this bill. Okay? You would generate the invoice, and then we would go ahead and print the pencil copy. Okay. Now, when we talk about printing, that's kind of a bit of a misnomer, because we can obviously preview it on the screen. We can email it to the client. We can obviously print it. And we do have the option to do that in multiple different file formats. So let's just go ahead and execute this, and let's take a look at this. And again, what you're seeing here is an example of an AIA style of an invoice. You are in full control over how this is going to look. And really, this is going to be driven by the request or the requirements of your customer. So you're seeing the 702 cover page, and then we're seeing some level of detail on the 703 as you can see here. Now, in this example, what the client has asked for is to see details and subtotals as you go through the different scopes of the project. But again, the important thing to drive home here is that these can look different based on the requirements of your clients. Okay. And then finally, once that is done, only somebody with the proper security would have the ability, once a potential approval process has taken place, only the person with the security would actually have the rights to go ahead and post the invoice, thereby creating the financial transactions into the general ledger, create the open receivables, credit revenue, debit open AR. So the billing is done, the forecasting is done, And as a final step from an accounting perspective, financial folks are going to go ahead and they're going to do their over-unders. They're going to do their WIP adjustments for the month. So you'll notice that everything we're looking at here is period-based. The information that you see at the top are nothing more than filters to control the number of records that show up at the bottom of the screen. And again, the purpose is for you to be able to work in manageable chunks rather than having to scroll through all of the jobs in the system at one time. So what are we looking at? Well, we're looking at the current cost budget, including all posted changes for this job, the current contract value, including all the posted changes that may have affected the contract value. The projected cost is the result of the project manager storing their forecast for the month. And we are the beneficiaries of the operational folks actually doing that. So we have the contract value minus the projected cost gives me my projected profit. Now, you'll notice that some fields have a white background. This gives me the ability to override any of the system calculated numbers that you see for financial purposes only. We're not affecting the operational view of the world, okay? Based on the information here, the system is calculating that if I've spent $55 million, that's about 41% complete. 41% times my contract value will give me an earned revenue number. Now, you'll also notice that we have two columns for earned revenue. With the recent IFRS 15 changes to revenue recognition, we've updated the system to make sure that our clients are compliant with the new RevRec rules. So you can either configure this to report your earned revenue based on the new IFRS 15 revenue recognition. We're also giving you the visibility under the old GAAP revenue recognition rules. So if that's what we've earned and this is what we've billed, the difference between the two is my over-under. If I agree with that number, all I need to do is select it and say populate WIP, and that moves the over-under number into the WIP adjustment column. Once I've completed this process for all of my jobs, all I need to do is to come over, select the jobs, go ahead and process WIP. And all we're doing at this point in time is we're doing an accrual journal entry to the general ledger. We're doing the over-under to the current period, which happens to be period 5. And you'll notice that we're doing the reversal to period 6. The final step as part of this integrated process, once all of the other subledgers have been closed, is to just simply go ahead, close the period, and now everybody is in the next accounting period. So that completes an example of the value of having everything on an integrated platform. Everybody within the company is doing their jobs. All of the change orders are being posted on a timely basis. Operational folks have that visibility. They're doing the forecasting and providing that information to the financial side of the house. And then the financial folks are completing their month-end process and moving into the next period. The results of the poll, which I neglected to mention, was that about 75% responded that yes, you do use spreadsheets in one way, shape, or form as part of the work that you need to do to get transactions into the system. So hopefully that's an example that will show you that we can streamline the process, eliminate the use of the spreadsheets, and because everything's on a single repository, a single database, everybody is benefiting and leveraging the information all in one place. So what I'd like to do is hand over. I'd like to introduce Ken Buck, the Vice President, Finance and Information Management from the DeMarco Group.
Thank you, Bill. Hi, this is Ken Buck. I'm the Vice President of Information Management for the DeMarco Group. My main focus with the DeMarco Group, and if you can go to the next slide, please. There you go, Mike. Thank you. Is that I work for DeMarco Constructors. DeMarco Constructors, for the most part, we negotiate all of our work. For the audience, we don't self-perform much of our work. We do about 150 million at DeMarco Constructors. The DeMarco Group that was established back in 1910, I work for the 4th generation of owners. We also have a property management company, a facilities maintenance company. We have 4 jets that help get us around from job to job. And a big part of covering the overhead for the DeMarco Group of companies is Admar Supply. So the 2 engines that run the DeMarco Group are the construction company and Admar Supply, and then they're supported by those other entities. We're in 14 states in the Northeast. We're creeping upon 500 employees across all of our companies. And if you can go ahead and go to the next slide for me, Mike. So let me just alert the audience, how we went through the journey to where we've, and now in 2020, are 100% running all of our projects and accounting systems on CMiC. We started back in 2017. We went out to San Diego to the user conference that CMiC calls Connect. We made the commitment to go to CMiC back then. We started our process in going live in 2019. We had started down the road of doing a full data conversion from Sage and Procore to CMiC, and realized that we didn't have the manpower or the resources internally or the horsepower to stay up with that. So we cut back on our decision to go live with every project. We decided to take one of our larger projects, form what we call the super user CMiC group, really marry up with a couple of CMiC consultants and really get our act together so that we could effectively go live for CMiC in 2020. And I'm proud to say that our whole team is using CMiC. We are in the public cloud. The folks from CMiC can explain that to people. So it's a single platform. One of the reasons that we made the investment back at the conference in San Diego was really the relationships that we built in that 4-day conference out in San Diego with existing clients and the folks from CMiC. I can tell you that CMiC reinvests in themselves, that it's affordable, adaptable, and it grows very well with the construction clients. That I said that we're doing about 150 million. We know that with CMiC, we can probably keep the same overhead and increase our volume, almost double it without increasing our internal volume. We would just add field staff. CMiC has also impressed us from the standpoint that when we joined these folks in 2017, that they saw the growth that they were having with their client base and also made a lot of changes internally that, we saw that they could really adapt to the growth of their existing client base, which made some significant management changes within CMiC that we just enjoy that relationship. I can tell you that if you're going to make this investment in CMiC, it's very important to have an implementation team. One of the mistakes that I made personally in making the decision in 2017 was not having a training and development person on staff. I do have that person that's been with me now for a year, and that's made a world of difference to be able to sustain and fully use this product. And even watching Bill's demo a few minutes ago, I wrote down a couple of notes on some of the things that I'm going to push my controller to do with some of our forecasting and billing. If you're going to make this commitment in CMiC, they're a relationship-driven organization, and so is DeMarco. That I would encourage you to also get to know other members of the CMiC family. That includes their general contractors as well. So having said all that, I'll be sticking around to answer any questions that come from the field. And I wanted to introduce and turn it over to another general contractor, another customer of CMiC, Paul.
Hey, good morning. Thanks, Ken. So yeah, as Ken mentioned, I'm Paul Essler. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Knutson Construction. And they had asked me to share a little bit of our experience going live during what has been a pretty interesting pandemic here in the last several months. So I'm going to walk through that. Let's see. All right. So just a little bit of background on Knutson. First of all, we are a general contractor. We're headquartered out of Minneapolis. Our primary work area, our markets are in the upper Midwest. So we're in Minneapolis, Rochester, Minnesota. We've got 2 offices in Iowa and a small office in Wisconsin. And we also just opened another office in Mankato, Minnesota. We do anywhere from 3 to 400 million in revenue. We're at the low end of that in 2020. That's what we'll be in the 300 million range this year due to a couple projects that have been delayed because of COVID. We do self-perform a lot of the work. We self-perform our concrete, masonry, internal finishing. We do as much self-perform as we can. And then what's also unique for us in our market is we're both a negotiated and a hard bid contractor. Our roots go back to the hard bid market, but in the past 5 to 10 years, we have really evolved into more of a cost plus negotiated, so we can deliver on both negotiated and hard bid projects. We feel like that makes us good at both. And then also our systems that we were using previous to CMiC, we were on ECMS, CGC product. Prolog was our project management system. And then to the earlier point made about all the spreadsheets, everybody across the company was using a lot of spreadsheets. So accounting, project management, we were doing our billings in Excel, equipment, all of our equipment, because we do a lot of self-perform. We also have our own equipment yard. So we were doing a lot of things on spreadsheets. So that's a little bit of background about Knutson and where we're coming from. Why we made the transition. So back in 2017, I've been with the organization about 4.5 years. I started late 2015. Prior to there was always the chatter about switching systems, primarily because our existing systems were legacy technology. Again, we are on ECMS for over 20 years. Pretty old technology. And again, obviously Excel is not the wave of the future in terms of either project management or accounting. So we knew we needed to make a transition. What we were looking for is truly a full integration of all systems. I love the slide that Laurent shows showing the 10 different modules. We did buy all the modules, I think, and Laurent can confirm, but I think we bought the whole package. But we definitely were looking for a full integration of all of the systems. Again, because we self-perform, we have our own equipment. Obviously, our HR modules we took. We also are employing the CRM module within CMiC because we do want a single source of truth for all of our history on our pursuits and to track our win percentages and everything, and also allowing us to forecast our pursuit work as well. We also wanted to look for an opportunity to streamline and standardize our business processes. We've got really 3 different operating entities that are consolidated into one Knutson, and all of the different entities really kind of have their own way of doing things. And one of the opportunities we wanted to make sure to capture was the opportunity to have standardized, streamlined processes where it made sense. Obviously, we want to leave people the flexibility to use their art of construction, but some of the basics we wanted to simplify. We had a very extensive selection process, as CMiC will share with you. It took us over a year to select our process. And the reason being is we really had a good cross-functional team, cross-office, cross-functional. We had project management, safety, HR, accounting, obviously, equipment. So we had everybody sit through a lot of the early presentations. We narrowed it down to 5, did an RFP, had 5 presentations. And I will say from the start, CMiC was the front runner. Even in that first round of 5, we had a pretty extensive, it was a full 2-day walkthrough of everything. I think if I recall, we had 114 pages of system requirements, and we were pretty diligent about forcing every one of the solutions to walk us through all of it. We didn't let them pick and choose which ones they were really good at, and those were the ones that they wanted to show us. We really forced the issue, and that's why we had a full 2 days. I think there was 16 of us in the room from Knutson, watching them and being pretty diligent on the selection process. So that took a full year. We started implementation the fall of 2018, and then we just went live May 1st. And you might wonder, why on earth would you go live right in the middle of, when everybody's working from home? Our initial target really was January of 2020. We had we had 2 significant turnovers in our controller and our payroll person of 38 years. Those 2 individuals decided to leave. I think our payroll person was a little overwhelmed with the CMiC transition and what was ahead. So she decided to leave, and then our controller also left the fall of 2019 as well. So that ended up just pushing us out of necessity. So then our next go live date was going to be April 1st. And then of course, mid-March, COVID hit. We were all working from home. And we decided this was not the best time to roll out CMiC. But very quickly, as many of you, I'm sure, you figured out the technology very quickly. The virtual technology, we use Microsoft Teams, and we decided, you know what, we're ready. We were actually ready on April 1st, but we decided to go May 1st. One thing I'll reiterate what Ken said, a couple things is make sure you have your staff. This is a huge undertaking. This is my first experience going through it. I've heard all the nightmare stories about, system conversions. And I got to say, CMiC made it very, very smooth. It was, as any transition is going to go, there's going to be, long hours, some difficult times and challenges, but they've made it very, very, very smooth. In terms of going live, again, I mentioned we went live May 1st. This is just I love this visual. This was a sense of this was an often situation where we had this many CMiC. I would say on the screen here, there's probably about 8 Knutson folks, and the rest of the team was from CMiC. So it just really required a lot of good coordination. But our internal project manager, who was running the project, as well as the CMiC side, just did really an amazing job of coordinating and organizing schedules in their time. What went well? So again, we went live in the middle of a pandemic. Our internal staff was well prepared. Again, we had it staffed right. We had what we had staffed it with is our controller, of course, pretty much a full-time accounting person. We had a let's see, a full-time project manager. We had an operations project manager who's dedicated 100% of the time to the CMiC transition. We had a 50% of a project engineer, also very engaged in the process. And then, much like Ken mentioned, we had hired a corporate trainer 2.5 years ago, and that individual was really involved on the training and also the change management, just, the evolution of rolling out the training. So that was our team. We had a really internal, a well-prepared internal team. And then secondly, CMiC, the coordination was critical, as I mentioned before. And it was just really important that our internal project manager, who was our IT director, who was running the project, just stayed close on the coordination and the organization with CMiC resources. They were always, again, in hindsight, I think we were probably better off going virtual than it was trying to coordinate all the travel. Because I think, and I would guess going forward, CMiC will probably be looking at their conversion as doing more of the virtual online process relative as opposed to the go live. Because again, our biggest challenge early on in the process was just coordinating all the travel schedules. One thing that I've been asked about, kind of as a question that I've got from other individuals, is, are we glad that we did roll everything out at once at one time? We didn't first do accounting or first do project management. We did make the decision early on that we were going to go all at once. And I think for me, what I saw was just having that common goal and that timeline for the entire team was really important, because some individuals I've spoken to, during this process of, well, we're getting ready to go live, some had gone partial where, we're going to get operations, maybe working on a few projects, still continue to do the accounting in Excel, or their old system, their previous system. We just really feel good about the fact that we did it all at once, because you did have that common goal and everybody had the same date to work towards. Again, I mentioned we use Microsoft Teams versus the classroom training. That's been a huge hit. Since we've gone live, we've done, 40 different sessions. And what's nice about that, with us being in different geographies, again, had we tried to do it with with the live classroom training, we probably would have missed some people and then try to get back to them. So once we were forced into the virtual, it was more productive, and we were more successful. I'm going to definitely commend CMiC. Obviously, using them for the implementation was also a pretty important decision for us. Just the quality of the system, the knowledge of the system. Everybody's kind of an expert, but it's amazing how many people on the CMiC team really know the entire team because it's integrated. So that's been very, very helpful as well. And then the post-go live support. So again, technically we went live May 11th, and May 11th was, since then we had a go live team, and then we've had the support subsequent to that. So that's it in a nutshell. I'm happy to stick around with any questions. But certainly I can't say enough of really good things about CMiC. From the selection process to the go live, it's been a good, really solid experience. And for hopefully having to do this one time in my lifetime, one time in my career, I'm glad I got to do it with CMiC.
Great, thank you, Paul. Okay, so there's the chat box that please submit your questions to, and there's already a few that are starting to come up. And then as we get those questions, just wait for some more to populate. Do want to thank Paul and Ken for giving us their stories, very different stories, but I would like to say something. So Paul did put us through the ringer for this selection process. So by all means, don't feel the need, if you've gone through this, that you need to submit a 200-line spreadsheet in terms of our functionality. But in any event, it was a great experience with both DeMarco Group and Knutson, and want to thank them very much for taking the time of their day today to spend it with us. One of the things I do want to highlight, and if you kind of the theme that's been between both DeMarco and Knutson, is amalgamating a number of systems. Both of them did it for different reasons, but they saw the value of reducing the number of products that they're using to accomplish their day-to-day tasks, and see how much they can do that with CMiC. And we're not going to sit here and say that we can do everything companies are looking for, but the idea being that when you look at what's going on today, and we're definitely seeing a lot more construction companies are going through a process right now, and one of the main driving factors is they would like to be able to do more with less, be it for reasons of there's a little bit of nervousness from what kind of projects will pick back up in the coming 3-6 months. So do we need to have all these different products, or are we able to streamline a bit better and not renew some of the other systems that we're using so that we can have more with one system? We're also seeing a trend. So for those of you that are thinking about maybe going through a process during these times, we're definitely seeing a trend where a lot of companies saying, we're not quite as busy as we thought we would be and had planned to be, but we still have the staff and want to take advantage of the fact that we can't put the right number of people on the implementation to make it successful. Because that's always a struggle we see, that during the busy times and the good times and the great economy, we want to make sure that we get as much work as possible. And very often, sometimes implementations can slide simply because that it's always more important to get more work than to spend money. But a lot of companies are now taking advantage of the fact that not as busy as they used to be and still having the same staff are deciding this would be a great time for us to look at systems and to really do it properly and engage with a software provider to make sure that they're taking advantage of what we can bring to the table. So definitely seeing a trend with that. Interestingly enough, our fiscal year end was May 31. And so you can imagine that during our Q4, we're right in the middle of this lockdown. And that happened to be our best quarter, which was great for us. But it was definitely something that we were pleased to see, where you definitely had some companies that were going to push off their implementations or their selection processes, but you also saw a lot of them that new ones starting simply because this would be the right time to do it. And a lot of it was from a business continuity perspective to make sure we had the right product to take us forward. There are still a lot of places around the country, around the US and Canada, where there still are stay-at-home measures in place, and there still are some difficulties with processing payroll, with running financials, really a lot of things that normally a controller or a finance director would be in the office doing, but because of what's going on today, are not able to do that. So there's a lack of trust with their VPNs, connections dropping, slower legacy systems. So it's a real struggle now for a lot of companies to be able to just do their day-to-day, and doing it in a way that makes them, where they don't want to be inefficient. So definitely seeing a trend there of companies looking to go through a selection process and planning to not be in this situation again. And with our streamlined implementation process, we are able to commit a lot of these implementations to a 1/1/21 go live. Now, if all 40 of you or 60 of you on this call decide to do this in the next couple of months, I don't know if I can commit to a 1/1/21 go live. Probably not, but we're definitely staffing for it. And really, whether you're doing a 15 million or 500 million or $1 billion, right now the implementations are all being done through remote services, and we really got that process down pat. We were able to accomplish what companies are looking for. Quite a few questions here in the chat that we'll start getting through. I will address the different panelists with the question. So the first one for Bill, does the billing module voice backup for GMP/cost plus bill, is there a way to mark it up to highlight amount and vendor?
So the answer to that question is yes. CMiC, as part of the overall solution, does have an enterprise content management component where all documents or all invoices, timesheets, whatever they may be, they can be stored in there electronically. Out of the box, there is a standard, we call it a billing backup with image links report. When you run that report, what it does is it scours the enterprise content solution for any electronic images that are linked to transactions. Excuse me. that are being included in that particular billing cycle. It takes all of that information, creates a cover sheet with hyperlinks, and it takes all of those invoices and or those electronic images and stores them into a location of your choice. So that compiles everything, and then it's your choice of how you deliver that to the client, whether you zip it up and send a zip file or you burn it on a CD, but that's your choice as to how you do it. So that is something that is part and parcel of the CMiC solution, is something that's available out of the box.
Great, thank you, Bill. Next question for Paul. What didn't go as well as you would have hoped?
Yeah, when I saw that question, I wrote down a couple things. For us, probably the headaches that we've had, and again, not that these shouldn't be expected, but for us, it was the payroll on the GL side. So the payroll, we had hired an outside contractor who'd gone through this before, and she was really, really solid and helped us immensely, especially since we lost our 38-year payroll person. But it was on the GL side. So making sure that on the payroll, all the coding into your GL, that has not gone very well. And as you can imagine, if you don't get it right away, it's we have to run a weekly payroll because we've got union. So for us, that was a pain. The second thing is just in general, what was an eye opener to me was on the equipment side, because now that it's truly an integrated system, the good news is it's an integrated system. The bad news is it's an integrated system, meaning everybody is now using the same database to do a lot of different things. So on the equipment side, we had our equipment manager, our yard managers, who had their side spreadsheets on how they track things and then how they would code things into the invoices into the projects. But now that we're using that as one system, it was really important that we get the correct information from the Excel spreadsheets into the system, and we didn't do that. So the very first month of the equipment billing was a little bit challenging because we rely on our AED rates, we rely on our replacement values, because some of our contracts require us, we can only bill up to a certain level. So that was the eye opener for me, was and it was some education of our yard managers and subsequently other people that use the system, is we got to use this. We adopted this system, so it would be our Bible. So single source of truth. We all got to use one consolidated system. So it's just really important. And then the last thing for us was, I think most companies, most contractors have the opportunity to show their other margins, so their cost versus revenue budgets and forecasts. Historically at Knutson, we didn't have that. So everything that got charged into a job had to be what we were billing the owner. Then you had all these other margin outside of the job. So that was new. So anything, my recommendation there is anything new that's a big kind of a philosophical shift, make sure you address that outside of the system, and probably better prepare your teams for, again, what I would call a philosophical shift in how we do our project billings and the accounting.
Great, thank you, Paul. Next question for Ken. The question is, how did your teams feel going from using Procore to having an integrated system with CMiC?
We will, excuse me, thanks, Laurent. We had a nucleus of project managers and field superintendents that really liked Procore, but they had to be filled or filtered all of their reporting out of Timberline on a weekly basis. So they had to rely on somebody in the office in accounting, kind of keeping them up to speed on where they were with their change order management. So all of their site management, their communication management, they loved Procore. But the full integration of knowing how their project stood from a financial standpoint, they didn't have access to. And had we been in this COVID situation with Timberline and not having people in the office and not being able to, do payroll and everything else remotely, we would have really struggled with our legacy program. So while we loved Procore, we found that the integration going to CMiC and their project management system actually helped us push the CMiC team to make sure that everything that we could do in Procore, we can now do in mobile field.
Great, thank you, Ken. Another question coming, did either of these companies do any data conversion? So I don't believe DeMarco did, but Ken did.
I would just highly recommend, if you're going to do any data conversion, that you get a hold of CMiC's top consultant, Robert Campbell. Robert was awesome. And we were going down the data conversion path. I was just burning out our controller. So from a resource standpoint, I had to make the decision that I wasn't going to put that weight on one individual. And I just didn't have the resources to do that and go through that. But Robert had us about halfway through and I pulled out. So you can do it. And Robert Campbell is the person you want on your team from CMiC.
Paul?
Yeah, at Knutson, what we did is we had hired early on. We had hired a system selection consultant, and they had some really solid experience on the conversion side. So we relied heavily on her just for her experience. But we did take one of our internal IT system analysts, and he was phenomenal. But we did really have to completely reallocate all of his work because we needed him full time. He was one of those individuals that put in a lot of hours, a lot of nights and weekends. But part of the reason our launch was so successful is because the conversion went incredibly well. We tested it. We did it over and over again. Did the conversion, fixed it, did the conversion, fixed, found the fixes. And he was a tremendous asset. So for us, it was a little bit different. We did rely, again, just more from a direction standpoint on a third party, but we did internalize that. But again, I think it's really important to understand if you're going to do that, make sure they've got the time to do it. And in our case, we dedicated the individual full time.
We see a mix at CMiC when it comes to data conversion. And data conversion as a heading is very broad, whether it's transactional historical data that people want to bring over, or if it's just master files. And we have different services that we can offer for companies looking to do, full blown like Knutson did, or just a master file in terms of your vendors, your cost codes, your chart of accounts, and so forth. So there are different options with CMiC, and some companies do like a full complete conversion, while others will take more of a pick and choose what they want to do.
The other thing I would say, in addition, be very selective on what you choose. And this was the good tip from our consultant. Be very selective on what's important to convert over. We had one of our peers going through a CMiC conversion, and I was in close contact with that individual. And they made the selection early on to bring a lot more over. And I think that individual probably regrets it. I think they went a little overboard on what they needed to convert. Again, we previously did a lot of our reporting in Excel. So for GL, we ended up converting only the balance sheet as of 12/31/18, all activity for 19, and then year-to-date activity for 20. And then on the project side, all we converted over was the existing projects. So we did our best to close out jobs before we went live. So that would be my advice too, is just be very selective on what do you really need, because if you have previous, technology that you can extract the data that you'll still need from history, use that. Don't try to convert everything in the world over into CMiC, because it is a challenge.
Thank you, Paul. Question, do we have an integrated payroll module? Yes, we do, along with different type of time capture formats, mobile crew time, professional time capture, be it on a mobile application or in a desktop application. So there's different areas to capture time, and we are fully union, non-union, and payroll across the U.S. and Canada. Question for Bill.
For you, Laurent?
Sorry?
Can I give you a plug there for that?
Yeah, I'm not going to stop you. Go ahead.
So an area where we were really concerned, even I would say even as recently as last fall, we were a little concerned about the technology for the e-time and the crew time. Our field loves it. Our field loves it. The office loves it. So we used to do old Excel schedules that we're doing right now in the system. So again, and these are individuals who aren't super technologically savvy, but they absolutely love the payroll process right now.
Excellent, thank you. Question for Bill. I'll answer the first part, Bill. The first part is there an estimating module? We do not have an estimating module in CMiC, but we are able to upload from any estimating system into our product. Also, we have a state sales tax that has to be reflected on the front page on taxable projects. The question is, can the invoice format be easily changed to accommodate that? Bill.
And that's the one you're giving me. So the answer is, well, can it be easily changed is a relative term. We may actually even have one that actually has that on the cover page. We have a number of different AIA 702, 703 styles of billing. If we don't, then you have the answer to the question is twofold. If you have the in-house expertise, we use JasperSoft as the reporting tool for all of the standard out-of-the-box reports. If you have expertise in-house, then you are free to create a version that has the information that you want on it. If not, then you can certainly come to CMiC, and we would do that for you as well. If it's something that seems to be more common, then CMiC's approach is if a number of our clients can benefit from it, we'll do it. We'll put it in the system once, and then it's available for everybody.
Yep, thank you. There's just a follow-up question to the payroll. Yes, we do certified payroll as well. Follow-up question. So that was that. Another question: is there a link we can use to expose train with CMiC? So I'm not sure what the question is, but I'll talk a little bit about our training. We probably have close to 100 different videos through the customer portal that clients can use to train with CMiC, and that is exposed as part of our onboarding process when you become a client, as well as series a number of different manuals and so forth that is part of your training process. So there's a follow-up to that by all means. I believe we're going to have access to, you'll have access to our email addresses, at least mine, hopefully with CMiC, and if not, we have yours, and I can always follow up with you later on to get to the specifics. We do have our own workflow engine. Does CMiC have an alerts notification tool? We do have our own workflow engine, again, which is a nice thing, where you can create your own workflows and alerts, and it's within the CMiC system. It's not a third-party product. We've developed it, and it does, what's nice is it follows your security matrix through the entire product. Meaning, as I do workflow, whether notifications or alerts or documents or financial statements or whatever it is, I'm only going to be able to see that because I would normally have access to that piece of information. The same thing with our analytics tool. So as people look at our different dashboards, when you go through the dashboard and you look at data, the data will only be exposed if you normally have access to that kind of data. So the security follows you down to the field level, and that's again the huge benefit that because it's a single database platform, I don't have to set up different securities because I'm using different systems. I think that's all the time we have, it looks like. If we can go to the last slide.
There was a question on there about the billing backup and the GMP, and I'll just hit on it quickly because I recognize the name and I know the system they use. Yes, the billing module is definitely an improvement over what that individual is currently using.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate that. All right, thanks, Mike. I want to thank our speakers and our guests, Paul and Ken, for committing their time to be with us this morning, as well as the time to set this up. Thank you very much. Really appreciate all your efforts. Thank you, Bill, for doing the heavy lifting and really showing what the system is all about. And really want to thank everyone who's taken time out of their day to participate in our virtual conference today. Like I said, if there's any questions, any follow-ups, please reach out to us, and we'd be happy to address those on a one-on-one basis. Thanks, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your conference. Have a great day.